Hello, hello. Welcome to this episode of The Creative Pause. My name is Susan Padron, and I am here with my co-host, who I will allow to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. It's Stacey Faye. So good to be with you today. We are here, like we are at every episode, to offer you some space for reflection or a smile or just some comfort and a bit of a breather in the time that we find ourselves in. So we're very excited today to have Lauren of Ren Ink here, and we'll introduce her more formally in a moment. But she will walk us through some beautiful lettering exercises that I think you'll find really meditative, but also will allow you to write out, a sort of mantra or quote that might be meaningful for you and do that beautifully. So we'll get to her in a moment. But before we do, we always like to check in and see how everybody's doing on this day. And I'll start first, and then Susan will go, and Lauren will also share a few words. And when you're watching this at home, feel free to, say aloud how you're doing or write it down, or find some way to communicate it to yourself or others. It's really important in the space that we all find ourselves in. And we should also mention this is a pre-recorded episode. So you'll see me talk perhaps about pregnancy, but by the time you watch this, I may not be pregnant anymore. Or hopefully. So just so you know that some of the feelings that'll come up are related to like the exact space and time we're in. So anyway, I will start. As I mentioned, I am pretty pregnant. I'm in my 30th week, about halfway through here, and my mood or kind of my mental space is I'm ready. I'm ready, and I'm completely not ready at the same time. So I'm feeling certainly the kind of embrace of like I'm ready to have her here. I'm having a girl. I'm ready to have her here with me and us to start the next chapter, which is good because a couple weeks ago, in this show, I was expressing how I wasn't ready at all and was having a lot of anxiety and panic. So it's good. It's transitioned to a readiness space. But then physically, I definitely am like, oh, I remember labor and I'm not looking forward to it. Um, so I'm having some of that too. And also a lot of, related to the pandemic we're in currently in this time and space. Definitely some trepidation about the hospital experience, and I've been having to go to my checkup appointments in masks and that sort of thing. So it's a strange time and an anxiety inducing one, but I'm feeling more ready as I get closer, which is good. So anyway, that's how I'm doing today. How are you, Susan?
Today, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. Yeah. um, yeah. Today's feeling a better day. I had some like anxieties that kind of crept up slowly and fiercely yesterday that I was able to really like process and work through. And so today it feels like I'm in a better place. I took some of one of our guests' advice on, like truly identifying emotions, allowing myself to feel them, and then just, releasing them or like processing them and then releasing them. And also today I had a lot of like really beautiful like connecting the dots kind of moments for myself, um, where my son was busy doing like something, just occupying himself, like playing by himself, and he was having fun with that. So instead of just finding other things to do, I went back to some of the creative activities that I started, inspired by this show and the guests that we've had on this show. Like I finally took out the pressed flowers that I collected from my backyard and glued them onto some cardstock, and got like I'm hanging them in my office now. And I decided to hang up one of the origami origami hearts that we made on an episode, and with Erica. The pressed flower episode was with EcoBoda, and so I just found that I'm really enjoying a lot of what I'm getting out of these episodes too, in addition to like how I'm able to help so many people. And I think prior to this morning, I was really focused on how we're helping other people and how this show is reaching other people, and not really focusing so much on how it's helping me. So to have that moment was really special, and I'm really grateful for that. But Lauren, how are you doing today?
I'm actually doing pretty okay this week, and today especially. It's been a little busier in my business, so I've had to really focus and put priorities first. But that is extremely hard for me as of late. I constantly feel distracted and pulled in every direction. And this morning it was my daughter having troubles with whatever app she's supposed to be on for school, and not understanding a project, and her eyebrow hurt. So that just pains, just happening. So I think we're all kind of like dealing with everything in different ways, and I find myself trying to be um, sort of the person to keep my family's positive thinking up and responsible for everyone's mindset and the tone, uh, which is a big responsibility, um, and sometimes that gets overwhelming to me. So I feel that a lot. But today has been okay. Today's a good day.
I can completely relate, Lauren, to what you're saying about being the one responsible for everyone's mindset. I feel that a lot in my house too. And I don't know if that's just, if it's a mom thing, or if it's just, similar personality types, or what it is that just makes us feel like, no, okay, so here's what you're going through, let's try to work through this, okay, and like, how can we get you to that next step of processing and that like next mindset shift, so that like it doesn't just create this giant rain cloud on our little household that we are currently trapped inside. um, but yeah, so I hear that it's an exhausting role to play, for sure. So like my heart is with you. So now what I get to do is I get to share the wonderful quote that Lauren shared with us. So I'm going to pull that up real quick, do a quick screen share. It says, "Delight is like the butterflies flying around and landing on the thing that is joy." It's such like a happy, pleasant, beautiful image. And Lauren, what was it about the quote that made you choose this one?
So I came across this quote. Ross Gay said it. He is a poet and an author. He wrote a book called The Book of Delights. Very simple title and a very simple purpose. Every day, Ross recorded down delights that he found throughout the day. Whether that be a beautiful cup of coffee that's just perfectly molded to his hand, or a praying mantis that he happened to see and watch. He recorded all of these in a book, and I'm actually reading it right now and devouring it. But it's this idea of you shouldn't just try to always find happiness or joy. Try to seek out these little delights or these little butterflies that fly around. And eventually they'll sort of lead you to the path of joy if you pay attention to the delights in your everyday. And that's sort of what I'm trying to do personally.
That's beautiful.
I love that. Is he a modern author, or is this book been around for a long time?
He is. He's a modern author, African-American poet and author, and he just has some really great work. That book in particular is just stories, and it really opens your eyes to his life. But the way it's written is very poetic, and he was interviewed by NPR, and that's how I found out about him. And this quote is from his interview, but it just really struck me. I heard it while I was driving, and I was like, wow, that just shows me like that there's this imagery to it. There's just these little things that flutter around. You're not necessarily finding joy, but you're finding the butterflies that will eventually lead you there. So I just really liked it.
Yeah, I think it's again like another really great message to hold on to, right? You know, now especially, and just seeking out those little delights. If joy isn't something that you can really find easily, or happiness isn't something that you can find easily, then little delights like a butterfly, I think, is great. And you know, being in springtime right now, I think it's a perfect time for that too. And I know Stacey and I always like to kind of see where the patterns are within the people that we have on as guests in the show, and things that they talk about and they share. And it's interesting, like butterflies and flowers are one of those like common trends, which is really great. And nice ways to just seek out little bits of happiness or color or fun. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, it also strikes me as well that everything is fleeting, right? Both flowers and butterflies are fleeting in their own ways, and so it's a moment to kind of like try to be mindful of those fleeting things, that they're not going to stay around necessarily all day or all week or even that hour or moment, but they can bring you real delight, as you said. I love that. I'm ordering that book pronto.
One. It also sort of gives me permission to not always be happy, but look for these little moments of gratefulness. Happiness just seems like this big thing that we can never achieve. But if we take a moment every day and just appreciate the way something looks, or, you know, maybe a smile your child gives you, just these little things, it's sort of poetic, but it's something simple we can all do and achievable. So that's why I like it.
Yay. So now I get the pleasure of formally introducing Lauren. So Lauren, who is also known as Ren, as her friends call her, she is an artist that is operating out of her home studio in Allentown, Pennsylvania. She loves to illustrate and write beautiful words with meaning for bridal couples and small businesses in the form of modern calligraphy and signage. In addition to that, she's incorporated her passion for teaching and her degree in art education by offering workshops and classes in the local Lehigh Valley area. And she teaches things like brush lettering and chalk and a variety of others that she will get to share about later on in the episode. So I am going to hand it over to Lauren, or Ren, and her business name is Ren and Ink. And I left that out in the beginning, but yes, Lauren or Ren of Ren and Ink.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, ladies. I'm so happy to be here. I wanted to start off by first talking about lettering and the meaning it has to me. Lettering I found when I was actually working full-time, and I was on the screen for a long time in Excel documents often, and I was looking for a way that I could use my hands again, and something that I could take on as a hobby. So I found lettering, and I have a background in drawing, but drawing seemed like too much to take on at the time. So with lettering, I focused on 26 letters in the alphabet. So that seems a little more achievable. What I didn't know is that this hobby would then become an obsession and a passion, and now a business. So I'm really excited to show you a little bit into my world. And first I wanted to explain what lettering is. And I'll give you a really quick rundown of it. Lettering is the art of drawing letters. So imagine if typography, which is what graphic designers study with fonts, and imagine if typography and illustration had a baby and they make lettering. So lettering is illustrating each letter individually. And I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on how to get started and some inspiration as well. So here I go. I'm going to share my screen with you. All right, so here we are with my examples. And these are all my work that I have done. But I wanted to show you some things about lettering that I think is really important to understand. The first thing, this is a project I did for Valentine's Day. It says sweet on you, and I did some florals and bumblebees. Now, there are different types of lettering, and I often do this with my work, and you might see artists do this a lot. We marry different types of styles. This style right here is called a serif letter, and that just means that it has these caps on the end. That's a more formal way of drawing a letter. And then over here is called script. And this looks more like calligraphy, if you're familiar with that art. And this is more feminine and bouncy, and it's something that people really enjoy to learn. So that's my first one. This one here says, shine bright, little star. And I've got a Pegasus jumping over here. This here is a different kind of letter. This is called a sans serif letter. And that just simply means that it's without the caps on the end. And this kind of lettering is a little more fun, a little more casual, but I've married it with this script again, which you will see I do that a lot. I love script lettering.
Lauren, I have to interrupt you real quick. When you like put forward that shine bright little star that you designed, Stacey and I both made like the same like all face, like it was just like, oh my gosh, it's just so beautiful.
Thank you. I was trying to make it for like a baby or a little kid's room. So thanks.
It totally comes across that way, and I just, sorry, I like had to share that because I felt myself make that expression like uncontrollably, and then I looked at my little rectangle below me where I see Stacey. She's making the same face. You're both like, no, I love it. But I'm sorry.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Aw, you. All right, this one's got a different vibe though. This is a mid-century modern piece I did, a little illustration. We've got, again, two different types of lettering. We've got script, and then this one's a tricky one. This is actually a serif letter that I drew. Even though the caps aren't as huge, they just have a little bit of a cap on each end that emphasizes the ends of the letter. This here is a fun one. This is nice and bright. We've got, again, script. And this here, even though I've put some detailing in here with a beveled look and some shading, this is actually sans serif without the serifs. So that's the same sort of block lettering, but I've added these detailings. One more, this one's my personal favorite lately that I've done. It says, you, me, and a cup of tea. And this one I designed more for Mother's Day. I personally love tea time. I've been doing that a lot with my family lately. We get out all the fancy china, fancy teapots, and we sit down. We have our sugar cubes, and we have a little tea time. But anyway, the lettering here is all script. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today, is script. But notice something. I've laid this quote or this phrase out in a specific way, and these connecting words are smaller. And you'll see a lot of illustrators, a lot of hand letters do that, and it sort of brings a flow to the piece, and it makes things more legible with the big emphasis on the big words. And then I added little teacups in there. So that was a fun one. So now on to our projects, on to our quote. First, we have to get our materials. Now, if we're going to do some hand lettering, really all you need is a pencil, perhaps an eraser if you make a lot of mistakes, which we all do. I do, for sure. And then just any sort of paper. This is just computer paper. Really simple. There's fancy markers out there, fancy pens, but all you really need to do a good piece of art is right here. You can also incorporate rulers if you want it to be super straight. I don't always use that. And then different kinds of markers. These can be to complete your piece at the end, once you're ready to finalize your lines. Anywhere from Crayola markers to Sharpies, anything will do. So that's not necessary though. All you need is a pencil, paper, and an eraser. And one other thing I wanted to show you, if you can see this, this is my own personal guide. This is a script hand lettering alphabet. You can see I did all the alphabet here. I even explained at the top how to use it. You can download this for free on my website, and the Creative Pause will also be having this linked out so that you can find this easily. This is a free downloadable PDF that you can use for your own lettering at home. Feel free to trace it, to use it as a reference. This is for you. That's my gift to you. So let's get started on the actual project. First, I'm going to walk you through how I draw a simple letter. There's a technique to it. All right, so I've got my sheet right here, and I'm going to draw a letter for you. And I'm going to choose the letter B here. It's the first letter of my last name, so we'll go with that. First, when I draw my letter, I'm going to start with a simple line, and I call this the skeleton. Notice I am not being perfect with this. I'm just sort of sketching it out. And we all know what a bee looks like, right? But we can make some design choices here. So I've decided to sort of angle my letter a little bit, to bring this around, to keep this open here. So I'm making design choices already. But you can see I'm keeping it as just a simple line. Then the next step, we're going to add weight in order to make our script lettering look like calligraphy. It's really easy to do. So anywhere when you write a letter, the downstrokes, when you go down, are going to be thick. When you go up, they're going to be thin. So those are the rules. Downstroke here, I'm going to add weight to it. So I'm going to make it look thick. And I'll fill it in so you can really see it on the camera. So that's a big, bold, thick downstroke. Now, when I draw this part of the B, I go up and around, and this is the downstroke. So I'm going to add my weight, my letter here. And already you can see the variations on the weight of the letter. So it's starting to look like a hand lettered piece or like calligraphy. Here I come around again. So I'm going to add the weight here. And again, as a lettering artist, you can make total choices with this. You can make it super thick, or you can make it just a slight thin downstroke. And those are all design choices you can make, artistic license. Now I can go on and add lots of embellishments with this. Maybe I want to add like an end to my my point here and maybe here, but this is a basic skeleton and then built up that I start with. So let's move on to when you're ready for a quote. I'm assuming you're practicing all of your letters. Now you're ready to make a quote, right? Well, here's the steps. I always start with sketches, and they are like little thumbnail sketches, some people call them. They're mapping out what I'd like the page to look like. So I've chosen this quote, "Here comes the sun." We're big Beatles fans here in my family. So here comes the sun, 4 words. But I've chosen to make the word "the," which is a connecting word. It's not as important. I'm dropping that down and making it smaller. And then the most important word in this whole phrase is sun. So I'm going to make sure I make sun really nice and big and bold. So you can see here, I have a whole bunch of different choices that I've quickly sketched out. This probably took me 5 minutes to do. Here I've chosen to bring "here comes" on an angle. Here I've chosen to have them straight. I've chosen to place "the" in different places. And this is just to see how everything looks. This is how I start. So I really like this one. I'm going to show you how I then develop it into a more refined sketch. And this is the next step. This might just look like a bunch of boxes, But what I am doing is I am drawing out guidelines. Here comes is on the top, but they're at an angle. The is down here, and sun is emphasized. So here, this is where I will write the word here, comes the sun. And now I'm mapping this out so I make sure I have enough space to put everything on there, right? I'm pretty much mapping out the real estate of where my words are gonna go. Now I've made a little bit of a difference here. Instead of having sun straight, I decided to have it on an angle. So I tweaked it a little bit once I went to my guidelines, and I'll show you why. There's a special reason why I did that. But once you're ready to refine your sketch, start drawing guidelines and make them really light. You don't need to make them really dark. You're going to be erasing them later on. Then, here we are. So you can see I've taken my guidelines. They're nice and light, ready for me to erase. And I've written out here comes. Here's the, which is smaller because it's a connecting word. And I'm going to show you how to write sun here. I'm going to do it with you. This information I had on here because you just have a short amount of time, but really take the time to develop this, to think about where your curves are landing. Really take time when you're doing your quote. I'm going to write sun right in this spot here. So first I start again with my skeleton. So I'm going to come up. And notice I'm coming out of here, but it's because I have this space right here I kind of want to fill. There's my S, U, N. So there's my skeleton. Hope you can see that okay. And then I'll go in and I'm adding that weight, right? You can see I'm kind of changing it as I go. This is real life sketching here. It's not always pretty until the very end. There's that. And now this goes up, right? So this is going to be thin here. And I'm going to decide to make the end of this a little bit thick. So I'm going to add some weight here. And this was my upstroke, so that stays thin. This is my downstroke of my U. When I go down to write the U, this part is going to be thick. So add weight here. Up is thin. Downstroke, thick, right? Upstroke thin, down thick. Upstroke thin, and then this curve. It's weight right there. So I've drawn out, sketched out my sun. I can then go in and add some marker if I want. Really take the time to refine it once I'm ready. And then I can erase all of my pencil lines when I'm done. It doesn't always have to be black. I'm a black and white girl. I just realized that everything I did was in black. Please use color. Color is fun. But you can see how I refine it with the marker and I can erase my pencil lines. Then the last step is, this is sort of why I went more into illustration after I got really confident with my letters, is because look at all this empty space up here. This is a perfect place to add little illustrative touches. So remember how I told you I put this on an angle? Well, I'm gonna add a flourish here, just to emphasize this word sun, because I think that's really fun. That takes some practice, but it's a fun thing to add. And then since we're talking about a sun, why don't we add some lines coming out of it that sort of radiate sun? So I can fill in these areas with lines. So now we're creating a composition. So this still has some work before I'm fully finished with it, but that's the basic approach to how you lay out a quote. And once you start really playing with different words, different layouts, you can really start to create some art for your home. I love to create cards for people and send them in the mail. A lot of the things I design are purposefully made for a greeting card or maybe a gift bag. So this is sort of how my process goes and where I start. But again, you can make things like that and practice your script calligraphy, your script lettering, I should say, with this digital download that I have. So make sure you grab this. This is free. And I hope that this gives you a bit of delight. Learning something new is always a great thing. And I just hope you have fun looking at it today and following along with me. So thank you.
That was so much fun. I was practicing along with you, like writing out sun, and yeah, it's just, I don't know, there's something really special, I think, about learning a new skill that, you know, you can utilize in so many different ways, like you were saying, Lauren, like, you know, whether it's creating something for your home or sending it out as a card to someone, you know, because we're just like inside our homes right now and separated from so many other people in our lives. It's just a way to add a little delight to your home or send a little delight to somebody that, you know, you haven't seen in some time. So thank you for sharing your beautiful work and your like beautiful skills with us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, I think learning really useful skills like that, it really is a skill. Anyone can learn it. It's not just for artists. It just takes a lot of practice and a good eye and dedication, but it's very useful. I'm often personalizing things, whether it be my meatball dish that I bring to a party or my kids' names on the wall or on their notebooks. So lettering is a really useful skill. It's a lot of fun. But I also have some information on my website. It is for kids using Crayola markers to draw calligraphy as well. So this isn't just for adults. This is something kids can get involved in too. I've taught kids as young as like 7 or 8 that start to learn their letters. And they really want to make it fancy because a lot of schools don't do the I almost said calligraphy, almost don't do handwriting like cursive anymore, or don't hit on it as much as I remember doing it. So this is something really fun that kids can pick up also.
I love that. And what I loved most about your, what you taught is it breaks it down to such simple little things. Like I'm a person who, first of all, typically, and it's funny because I'm an artist, but I'm a jeweler. It's a different type of art. If somebody says like, can you draw? I'm like, no, I can't draw. I'm not drawing. And you know, mine like looks decent. Like it doesn't look that bad. And it's because like I followed exactly what you said, like, oh, downstroke, thicken up the downstroke. I'm like, oh, right. Okay. Because no one ever told me that, you know, no one ever sort of like just breaks it down into those like small details that make such a difference for visualizing it, I think. And also like, you know, how you had the blocks, right? It's like how you used to learn handwriting in school. Like you mentioned that a moment ago, but it would be like you would write it in a block because that keeps your brain kind of contained to that area and allows you to do it in a way that works, you know. So I love that. I thought that was so great that you broke it down in those small chunks for people. It makes me feel like, oh, I could actually do this.
You can, yeah. Thanks for saying that. A lot of people ask, do I need to have really nice handwriting? Like, oh, probably your handwriting looks so good. And honestly, my penmanship every day when I write grocery lists looks like chicken scratch. So you can do this even if you're not an artist. It's just simply having those little tips and tricks, like the thick downstrokes, the thin upstrokes, or drawing shapes within a form. You know, think of it as shapes. Anyone can really do it.
Lauren, can you share how you how you figure out how to like make the blocks, the like kind of space holders in terms of like the size, like the length, the width? Is it something that you really had to start by like measuring out and now you can just eyeball it, or is it something that's a less precise science?
Sure. So it takes a lot of practice. Visually, the sketching is a really important part to see where things lie on the paper. I've been doing this for a long time, so I make a lot of design choices simply by what I know looks good. But this sort of, if you think of it as having a border to the paper and bringing in your design and giving it some breathing room around the edge, that's really helpful. Also think about legibility. So you don't want anything like bumping into each other. You want to leave a little bit of space in between. You can always fill it with illustrative elements later, but really leave that space so your words can have some breathing room. Think of it as, again, real estate. So this is the most important word that I wanted to emphasize. So this angle and this way that I brought the drawing down to sun right at the bottom, that's important. And remember about the small connecting words, like those aren't as important, but they're going to make a nice filler piece, and think of them as being a smaller element. So when you break it down into shapes, it's filling the shapes within the composition. And it does take a little bit of an artistic eye, a lot of practice, but just visually, like if you practice it a lot, it will come easily.
Thank you. I know when when I used to teach, I was a music teacher, but still like making posters or like trying to make something look like artistic on the board or designing bulletin boards. I think having that skill of like, or I don't know, the thought to plan it out visually first before you just like dive in would have saved me a lot of staples and erasing. um, so I appreciate your tips and just how you just guided us through everything to make it that much more achievable and accessible.
Sure, it's a lot of fun. So everyone try, give it a little try, and just take a moment for yourself, a little bit of delight, learn something new, and give it a shot.
That's awesome. Well, Lauren, I have one last quick question, which is, when you got started with this, I know you've been doing it for a number of years, but when you got started with it, were there any other things that you found helpful in the journey, like a particular book or a tip or trick, like in addition to what you've already shared? That so for those of us again who are like, oh, I can't draw and there's no way I could do it, like, is there any word of wisdom that way that you would share with anybody who's watching?
That's a really good question. So I learned a lot of it through the Skillshare platform. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's a great platform for artists, designers, creatives. There was a lot of information on there. Actually, when I first started in 2015, there wasn't as much information as there is now. So it took a little bit of digging on my part. But I just started, I actually started an Instagram account just to post what I had been working on, which is kind of funny, but I started following artists that I love. So if you are interested in finding out more information, even just looking for the hashtag hand lettering will open up a whole world that you didn't know existed. There are a lot of artists that write books. One of them is actually a Pennsylvania artist. Her name is Jessica Hish. She's like the queen of lettering. All bow down to the queen, but she does a lot of digital lettering, and I really loved her style. There's an artist in Philadelphia named Mary Kate McDevitt, and she's an awesome person as well, that does more like a little more loose, fun, bright lettering. I really love her. And I've also taken workshops, one from Mary Kate McDevitt, but many other workshops either online or in person. And if you are interested, I do run workshops. I've started on an online platform too. So that's new to me, but I'm really excited to do that and offer that during this time. But in-person workshops are really helpful. You can ask questions directly and be guided by an actual instructor. So all of those things are just really great resources to learn if you really want to dive in. It's a vast universe though, so pace yourself.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And can you share where people can best find you, your website, your Instagram handle, all of that?
Sure. So my name is Lauren Beck, but people call me Ren, R-E-N. My business is called Ren and Ink, like pen and ink, but with an R. So my website is Ren and Ink, RENAND Inc.com. And my handle on Instagram and all the socials is ren.and.ink. So you can follow me on there. And I have many workshops that happen, lots of different resources I release, and lots of art. So I'd love a follow.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on, for teaching us.
Thank you, girls. I love what you're doing. It's just so inspiring, and giving back to your community. It's pretty awesome. So thanks for doing it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this has been, I think I've said this every time we've had an artist on, but it was very meditative to go through this with you. And I think it's something that we can all incorporate into our day to probably just bring us that grounding and then create something beautiful, which is amazing. So thank you so much for being with us. And thank you everyone out there for watching this episode of The Creative Pause. We hope it brought some levity to your day. And we always end our show with the same quote from a Mary Oliver poem, which is, "What will you do with your one wild and precious life?" So thank you so much, everybody, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Have a good day.